Hello, this is our AP Chemistry Lab Gravimetric analysis of X2CO3 crystals. The X is the mystery, so we're trying to figure out what is the mystery chemical here of these crystals. So you're going to read the introduction, you're going to look at your materials, and then I'm going to do the procedure for you so you can get the data for this lab. So you should be copying my data. So the first step is to record the mass of a clean, dry 250 milliliter beaker. So this is our beaker over here, and we're going to get the mass of the beaker on the balance. And I'm going to write down what I got for you on the paper. So go ahead and copy this number. We got 94.00 grams for our beaker, all right? And then step 2, we're going to add our sample of X2CO3 crystals to the labeled beaker. It's gonna be about 1 gram. So let's go ahead and add our crystals to the beaker. And so we're going to weigh this one again. So let's get the mass again. And this one is going to be 95.24 grams. So you should be able to tell how much the crystals themselves weighed, right? Because there's the beaker and then there's the beaker with the crystals. All right, let's go ahead to number 3. Add about 30 milliliters of distilled water to the X2CO3 crystals in the beaker. Stir with the glass rod to help the mixture dissolve. So I'm going to pour a little bit of water in here, just to about the 30 milliliter mark. And I need to stir it with my glass stirring rod to make sure all of these crystals dissolve. So what we're doing is we're putting these crystals in solution because we need them to be in a solution in order to react with our other chemical. These are the mystery crystals. We're going to react them with something we know in order to get a precipitate. So we need this to be colorless before we move on. All right, so here's our crystals. Okay, let me add a little bit more water so it becomes a little bit clearer. And I'm going to keep stirring. All right, so that's pretty clear. So we can move on. The next step is we're going to add about 80 milliliters of 0.25 molar CaCl2 to the dissolved X2CO3 solution. Swirl to allow precipitate to form. Rinse off the stirring rod into the beaker with distilled water and allow the solid to settle to the bottom of the beaker. Record observations. All right, so we have our calcium chloride over here, and we're going to mix that with our X2CO3, our carbonate, and we're going to see if a precipitate forms. So this is colorless, this is colorless. Let's mix them together. We spilled a little bit, but it's okay. So here is our precipitate. So you can clearly see it is a milky color. Now you might be thinking, well, where's the solid? Like there's no rock in here, but it is really just little particles that are solid that are within the water. So they're just floating in there. So we should be mixing it just to make sure that it is fully dissolved or it's fully combined. So we want all of the precipitate to come out, all right? So you might also be wondering, why was I able to just add a random amount of this and be okay? It's because this is an excess. So remember, we had limiting reactant and excess reactant. Because we had this as an excess reactant, it doesn't really matter that we had a little bit too much, as long as we fully reacted all of our crystals, our original mystery crystals. All right, so now we have our cloudy solution, and so we're going to go to step number 5. Let's go to step number 5. Put the funnel in the top of the Erlenmeyer flask so the spout pours into the flask. So we already did that over here. So we have our funnel and it's going to go into the flask. Number 6, take a piece of filter paper and label it with a Sharpie. You would label this because I have so many students, so you need to know which one is yours. But this is just a demo, so I don't have to label mine. You need to include the period and group if it was you. And now we're going to take the mass of this filter paper. So I'm going to put it on the balance to get the mass, and then I'm going to write it on my table. So I'm going to get 0.81 grams. All right. So now I'm going to fold the filter paper like this. I need to fold it in half like a taco, and then I need to fold it in half again like a pizza slice. And this is going to help me catch all of the precipitate. So when I open it, I want to not open it in the middle, because if I open it in the middle, then there's going to be this big hole. So I need to open it with 1 paper on the top and 3 on the bottom, so there's no hole. And I'm going to put it in my funnel. And a trick you can use is you can put a little bit of water in it to keep it down, or you can just hold it with your fingers. Now we're going to pour all of the solution into the funnel. So you should be expecting the bottom to be colorless and the top to catch all of the white chalk that we made. So we're gonna go ahead and pour it. And you can see it's gonna take a very, 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 very long time for it to filter because it needs to get rid of all of the precipitate on the top. And so you just have to sit here for about 20 to 30 minutes watching it all drip. So you kind of see it's dripping on the bottom. It's gonna drip very slowly. And eventually the bottom is going to be all of this colorless liquid and the top is just gonna be the chalk. So when we're done with this, I'm just gonna skip ahead and tell you the final mass so you don't have to wait here for 30 minutes and watch this video for 30 minutes. When we're fully done putting all of the solution into the funnel, what's gonna happen is the bottom is going to have a lot of liquid, a colorless liquid. The top is going to be dry, but with only our chalk. So what we're going to do is we need to dry it. We need to dry it for a very long time so that we can make sure that there's absolutely no more water left. So we're gonna put it in the back in a drying machine that's gonna heat it up over the weekend, and we're going to be able to dry it and then get the final mass of just the chalk that is left in here. But because I already did this experiment and I have the number that I got, I'm just gonna show you what number I got for when I did this experiment. I got 1.91 grams after I had my filter paper dried with the chalk. So with these two numbers, you should be able to tell how much the chalk weighed. All right, so that's step 11. When dry, get the mass of the filter paper and precipitate. A couple things you have to know about this lab that you kind of can't see because it's in a video is you need to make sure that all of the precipitate actually makes it into the funnel. So a common mistake people make is they accidentally leave some on the sides of the beaker. There's a lot of cloudy stuff on the beaker. You need to do your very best to wash it as well as you can so that there's nothing cloudy on the beaker. And then make sure all of it gets into the funnel. Otherwise, you're losing some in the beaker, right? Another common mistake that people make is if they don't filter it correctly and some of the precipitate gets into the flask, then they will lose some of their chalk, all right? So we are doing pretty good so far. We can see that it is totally colorless down here and all the white stuff is sticking on the top, right? So once again, now that you have all the numbers, you can continue your observations. Make sure you did some labeled sketches of what was going on. Make sure you also write what is going on, and then go ahead and do the calculations on the back in order to figure out what is the mystery X, like what is the mystery chemical.